Hey, so today I'm going to talk a little bit about data orchestration in Domo. And this might be a little mini series where I talk about a couple different ways you can orchestrate your data in Domo effectively. And so when I say data orchestration, I kind of think of how basically it's where you're patching together systems, right? You're integrating source systems with Domo and Domo with systems that come after it, right? So it kind of forms a process that looks what like this on this flowchart, right? Where we have source systems that update. We want to trigger Domo to run an update, do a connector job, and then maybe we do things downstream from Domo, right? Like maybe we update it, maybe we update systems, things like that. And so why is this important? I feel like with Domo, most of us are used to cron jobs, right? So usually we're used to a connector refreshing every day at 10 a.m. or every hour. And the truth is, those processes are really inefficient, right? For me, the first time I talked about or thought about data orchestration, we had this process where we had a snowflake table that we didn't really know when it would update. It wasn't every day at a certain time. And so in this case, Domo was kind of guessing, hey, like it's going to update at 5 a.m. Pacific time. And for us, it just was really inefficient, right? It was costing us money on the snowflake side. It was costing us an unnecessary commute on the Domo side as well. And that's where orchestration comes in, right? So if you've ever worked with an orchestration tool like Dagster or Airflow, this is kind of what we're talking about, where it creates what's called a DAG. And I'm not going to pretend to understand everything about it, but a DAG stands for a directed acyclic graph, right? And it kind of is made up of nodes and edges, where each thing kind of chronologically follows and doesn't cycle through, right? So in this case, this is where our source system starts out, it triggers something, Domo becomes the next step, and then our destination system is the last step. So I'm going to talk about an example I did where I'm going to be documenting this in another video. But basically, this example here is it's kind of a full orchestration process where we have data from different sources that's being pulled in with Fivetran, which is it's an API connector with Snowflake. And a cool feature of that connector is that it can let you know once a table is loaded into Snowflake via webhook. And so in this case, this is great because this helps us orchestrate the beginning part of our orchestration process. The first step is once the data loads into Snowflake, this webhook gets triggered to a Domo API endpoint to trigger this connector refresh. And so I've talked about this endpoint a couple times, but basically there's a Domo API endpoint that you can authenticate with. You're hitting your specific Domo API Domo account instance, and you're going to find this. You're going to need the stream ID of the connector, but you can trigger a post to this to then run a connector job, right? So in this case, this kind of explains up until this point, right? So we've triggered Fivetran, it's loaded the table into Snowflake. Fivetran then lets Domo know that it's done, so that Domo can come over and only pull the data when it's done, right? So in this case, Domo is not guessing. We're not doing a cron job on our connector. We're only going when the webhook alerts us. And then after that, we also can do dataset alert actions and webhook actions that can tell us when the connector is done refreshing, right? And so in Domo, there's dataset alerts are really powerful, but basically what I do is I'll set up a column where I know that if the column changes, it means that the data is refreshed. And so I'll go more about that in depth. But anyway, what it does is it'll also be able to trigger a webhook, right? So in this case, it can trigger an external service. And so what I do here is I'm using a service called Make, which is also Integromat. And what it does is it lets me write back to Google Sheets the data that I just got from my Snowflake connector, right? So in this case, this could be a variety of things, right? This Google Sheets maybe isn't a good example. There could be lots of examples where you're triggering stuff downstream from Domo. Domo is kind of maybe acting as your data repository or warehouse of some sort, and then you're integrating data to other systems with it. And again, this is very important because you want to know when your data is refreshed, right? You don't want to unnecessarily pull data into other systems. And so that's why this webhook action with the dataset alert is also really powerful. And so this is kind of just a brief overview of orchestration. I'm going to go more in depth about each one of these steps. So thanks.